When I was a little kid, back in the days when you could ride your bike around everywhere without adults freaking out about crimes they imagine will probably happen to kids if they ride their bikes around, I used to ride my bike to this little pond called Horseshoe Pond in Maquoketa, Iowa. That's an actual town. You can Google it. It's on the Googles, Maquoketa, Iowa. And I went there with my buddies, and we would take our little miniature adorable fishing poles, and we'd fish for bluegill in this one little corner that was good for kids to fish in. I would catch bluegill all the time, and it was really fun. So you could see them swim up and take the worms, and I would get the worms out of my own garden. It was just a wonderful childhood memory. But I never caught anything big, and it always frustrated me. And one day I remember I was there with my friend Ryan, and I threw in my line, and I assumed that I was just going to get another bluegill, but something bent that line all the way over. And not like a little bit or like I'm a kid and I'm remembering it wrong, but I mean, it doubled over the stinking pole. And so I started pulling on this with my tiny little fourth grade muscles, and I actually feel it coming toward me. And I thought, well, it's not fighting or wriggling, so I must have caught a giant log. And so I kind of, give up and relax and pull the thing in. I get it closer and closer, and I can see all the moss and stuff on this log as I start to pull it up. And then all of a sudden, the log just leaps up out of the water and makes this face at me. And it has this giant gaping mouth. And it was like the biggest alligator snapping turtle ever. It had maybe wandered into this pond through the backwaters from the Mississippi or possibly from hell. The thing was huge and it loved to eat children. And so it's hissing and clawing its way out of the water at me so as to better murder me with its gaping jaws of death. And I started shrieking like a small girl and freaking out. And I'm just like, Dad, take the pole, take the pole. And so I just gave it the pole and ran away, but it wasn't satisfied because it wanted to murder me for disturbing its slumber. And this dude that was down a ways and fishing on his own came running over. He's like, I got this, stand back, stand back. And he took this hammer and he just took the claw end and caved in the thing's head. And after that, it was dead, but it still kept hissing, even though it had all this like turtle pus coming out of its brain area. So then after the guy gets done braining the turtle, he asks me permission to take it home and eat it. I'm gonna want that turtle. I'll throw it in my backpack and just ride home on my Huffy. No, dude, you can totally have the turtle. Take it. So he picked the thing up and hauled it off and presumably ate the turtle. And I bravely went home and cried in the fetal position while my mom slowly rocked me. And in a lot of ways, me catching that snapping turtle is a lot like the passage we've been looking at in Acts chapter 10. That little boy trying to wrestle in that gigantic snapping turtle is a lot like Cornelius. And if you think about it, the turtle in a way is a lot like Peter. The honest truth is, I am struggling to make a connection between this story and the passage we've been looking at in Acts chapter 10. And I just really wanted to tell you that story about that time that I caught that snapping turtle. I'm sorry. Okay, so for like 4.5 episodes, I've been promising you that we were going to do some observations here about Acts chapter 10, and we keep not getting to it. This is the episode where we actually get to it. So if you haven't watched the previous, really 5 episodes, what I'm about to do next will make even less sense than that story. See, I found a way to make it fit together. It's After verse 48, all of these people who just a few verses earlier were saying, I don't get what's going on, I don't know what this means, please explain it to me, are just as much Christians as Peter. These people, like Peter, are in because of the grace of Jesus plus nothing. That's what the Bible teaches. I know that there's a ton of room for theological disagreement on a ton of stuff. To me, this one is pretty non-negotiable as it pertains to Christianity and what it is. God is the giver of grace. People are the receivers of grace. That's how it works. This is not a religion where people do enough cool stuff that God is impressed, and then finally he'll begrudgingly give them a pass to come through the wall and be on the good side of things. The wall, a door in the wall, to really abuse this analogy, is held open by the work of Christ on the cross and in the resurrection. And that's how it works. That's how people pass from the side of judgment and doom to the side of optimism and hope and forgiveness and restoration of a relationship with God. That's the deal, and we see that played out here and all around it. So in light of that, we come back to the big point of all of this passage. And from the get-go, I've been talking about what it's like to be on the outside of a thing that's really cool, and imagine how much fun it would be to be in on that. I've talked about this guy before, and I know he's a bit of a controversial figure, but as a Denver Broncos fan, I loved the Tim Tebow era. It was a blast. I was always jealous of Florida. I'm a Colorado football fan. But the whole time I'm watching Colorado go 1-11 every year, I'm watching Tim Tebow and Florida fans have a blast during his college career. I'm not going to root for Florida. Come on, get a grip. So, I sit over here in the Mountain West and watch that and just go, it'd be really fun to be a part of that story, but it's not for me. And then weirdly and erratically and in a bizarre place in the first round of the draft, the Broncos draft that guy. And I knew it was a dumb pick. I knew it was a reach, but as a Broncos fan who was really impressed with how much fun they were having in Florida, I was like, hey, now the story is for me. I get to be a part of that fun. I bet we're going to have fun. And it was fun. It is a rare treat in life to see something really cool from the outside and then suddenly realize that you get to participate if you'd like to as well. That is what these people are receiving. Imagine being on the outside looking in. Imagine how you felt in middle school. You remember that? Everybody, even the bullies and popular and attractive kids, everybody was on the outside of something looking in, wishing that they could be a part of a circle, a part of a thing they weren't allowed to be a part of. And maybe at some point you cracked in or you made it in with a group of people that you really wanted to get to know and share some time and life with. Remember how meaningful that was? Exponentially multiply that and apply it to the biggest questions about life, death, and humanity. To go from being on the outside looking in at the promise of grace from a God who claims to love people in this moment, to go to the other side of being completely enfolded in a matter of just a few minutes, and then to receive supernatural confirmation from the God who you've been observing from a distance that you are in, that you are received, that you're no longer outsiders, that you are children and heirs and participants in this kingdom and fully a part. I just can't find a way to articulate with my modest English skills how exciting and how big a deal this would have been for these people. Okay, my goal in these shows is to take what Luke is writing down here and try to relay the content as best as I can. I say it's the Bible without the sermon because I don't really want to tell you what to do. I don't necessarily know what to do myself, so it doesn't seem like it'd be a good idea to export that to everyone else. But just going off of the text, if we take this for what it is, Luke is trying to put this ball in literally your court with these kind of remarks. This story is one that you're supposed to get to the end of as a contemporary reader, as a modern reader, and say, okay, where do I fit? It is obvious that we're supposed to look at this story ourselves, encounter it to an extent from the perspective of Cornelius, and consider whether we'll respond like he did. He had an open mind, he responded to God's prompting, he listened to what was said, and then he was honest enough to just respond to what was obviously miraculously happening. That won't happen necessarily for you and me, but it did here. And then he was baptized and let everybody know, okay, I'm in. I'm a follower of Christ. This is what I do now. We've been at this for 10 full chapters now. There are a few other places where this calling seems to be made known to us. I think here it's really evident. It's pregnant in this passage. If you're someone who doesn't know what to make of this, I think Luke is prompting you to consider where you stand with the thing and what you make of it. If you're someone who says, okay, I'm considering it, and what I want to do is continue to consider it, thank you very much. Cool. I think that's a valid response. If your response is to say, no, I've already rejected this, but I want to know more about the document, and I'll continue to reject it. Okay. Well, now you know more about what Luke is doing here in a literary sense, and you can move on as someone who's decided it's not for you. If you're someone who's already in, this is a great opportunity to just pause and reflect on how cool it is that you have the opportunity to be in. For me, that's the take home of this whole thing. It would have been very easy for any God who gets to write the rules, be the author of morality and truth and salvation and everything, to say, this is how I'm going to do it. Fairness is not my obligation as God. Perfection is. And I decide what is perfection, and this is the way I'm going to do it. He could do that. But instead, the true God saw fit to say, this thing is for everyone. Put together a plan that demonstrates that all along it was for everyone. Bent over backwards, made sacrifices himself to make it available to everyone, and now here it is. So for me, as somebody who's already in, to keep using that same language, it's just a meaningful moment to pause and reflect on how cool it is that I have the opportunity to be in. We're going to come back and revisit a whole bunch of this material because Luke isn't done emphasizing this point yet. Chapter 11 is going to feel like we're revisiting a lot of this same content, so there'll be plenty more to think about on this. For now, that's a whole lot of Acts chapter 10. That's a whole lot of implications, and I think we've had a good conversation about it. In the next episode, we'll see how the people back in Jerusalem respond to what's happened up here in Caesarea. In the meantime, I'm very excited about how this is going. The conversations have been really meaningful and enjoyable on YouTube in the comment section right now. A lot more of you have subscribed for the podcast. I've got some episodes coming up with the podcast that won't just be the audio from this program, but that'll be some conversations we're having about subject matter I think you'll find interesting. So keep an eye out for those, and I'll try to remember to let you know when that kind of thing is coming down the pike. Additionally, everything about the 10-Minute Bible Hour is at the10minutebiblehour.com. If you haven't been there yet, check it out. If you have been there, you should probably favorite, make it your home page so that you can just look at the pictures and click on different things all the time, because what an important website it is and how it's the source of great entertainment and knowledge. And you should definitely go there a lot and upvote it and probably leave comments and other things saying how good it is and share it. Those are just suggestions. You don't have to do any of that stuff. I'm a busy guy. I do a lot of things. I have a lot of fun being a part of a church. I have a family that I love. I have friends, play sports, stay busy during the week. But this is one of the real highlights of my week. I love putting these together. I really get amped up as one's getting ready to be published. I'm excited to get it in front of you and see what you all think. I'm about 8 months into this project. I'm still having a blast with it, so we'll keep moving through the book of Acts, and I really appreciate you being a part of this thing. I'm Matt Whitman. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour. See you soon.